You upset my mum.
Great big absorbing creature from outer space, and you're having a go at me.
No one upsets my mum.
Yeah, I'm gonna hate... She's hardly in this enough for me to say that, is she? Nah, fuck it. I'm gonna hate you anyway.
You've dealt with aliens. Now meet the genuine article.
And you stupid fucking muppet!
I tell you what, Elton. Here we are, complete strangers, and I'm flashing you my knickers.
And her, since Rose is hardly in this one, Jackie picks up the irritating blonde slack. Fuck! Actually, most of the guest cast could be in here. It's like they took the 10th Doctor, cut him into pieces, and almost all the guest stars grabbed and ate a bit, absorbing some of his power. Start the theme music! Now this one's taken a while to get to. Almost as soon as I started the show, I've had people asking when exactly I was going to review it. And I can prove that by using this completely unbidden footage of people asking.
Hello, I'm totally not a minion, and I am a real person, as you can tell. And I'm from America, as you can tell by my cool hat. I have not been on camera before. And I'm totally not one of the minions who came before me. I would like the mistress to review Love and Monsters from Doctor Who, because all I hear when this comes up is incoherent screamings.
I know what you're thinking. Minion masks are just in fashion. Everyone wants to be one of my slaves. So yeah, this has been coming for a while. This is the episode that in popular consciousness fights with Fear Her as worst episode of New Who, / worst episode of Total Who. Which really should be a video game, by the way. I admit that Love and Monsters is utterly terrible. It's fucking awful. But I held off on reviewing it because I feel most people are being a tiny bit hyperbolic about it. Most people tend to describe it in terms usually reserved for Category 5 hurricanes, which is idiotic. It's at most a Category 4. I'm not saying it's good. It's just that there are others out there that are far worse. So anyway, on to our episode today, Eros und Mary Whitehouse. Now, you might not believe me, but the opening to this episode is my favourite part. Well, it's pretty much the only part I don't hate with a violent passion. It's just so silly. I have no idea what they thought they were doing, but it amused me. Our main character, Elton, is played by Mark Warren, or as I like to call him, Mr. Tea Time. I'm going to assume you know Terry Pratchett, so I don't need to explain that. He's obsessed with chasing down the Doctor and in a remote harbour has found the TARDIS. It's almost a spiritual experience as he reaches out to touch something beyond him, something magical, the home of a lonely god.
Doctor! Doctor,
And clearly every god that does or doesn't exist hates the fuck out of Mr. Tea Time. He tracks down the Doctor and Rose battling a Hoix via meat and buckets and Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Uncle Scooby? Scrappy-Dappy-Doo!
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
In Mr. Tea Time's defence, most people's reactions to David Tennant involve running. Just most people would run the other way. But I'm totally with them. Run as far and as fast as you can. Now, what would a Twatty Who review be without me pointing out shit that you hadn't noticed and don't care about? Well, add some talent and it'd be an episode of SF Debris. But that's not important right now. The Hoix is portrayed here as a stupid beast, an animal missing any reasoning powers at best. I'm not going to ask how it made it to Earth, but I will point out that 2,000 years earlier, during the Pandorica Opens, the Hoix was smart enough to be part of an anti-Doctor intergalactic alliance. I know most people would just assume they're reusing costumes, but the Pandorica Opens promised me there were Dravins in that intergalactic alliance.
Nestine, Dravin, Sycorax, they're all here for the Pandorica.
And instead of seeing man-hating fascist sexy go-go dancers, I just got to see more fucking hoiks. So I'm not going to get over this. This is a big fucking continuity error and it's the Pandorica Open's fault, but I wanted to see Dravins. If Androgams didn't exist, they'd be my favourite one-off classic Who aliens. Sorry. That minor detour of a point turned into a cul-de-sac, didn't it? Now, this was the first of semi-many Doctor-lite episodes of the show to allow them to film an extra episode. So the Doctor barely appears. Instead, we're going to get this.
But, this is the story of me and my encounters with alien life forms.
Yes, this episode will deal with vlogs. So I'm already guessing this review will get less views than usual because people fucking hate vlogs apparently. Mr. Teatime met the Doctor as a small child. He went downstairs in the middle of the night to find his mum dead and the Doctor standing over her body.
So what happened? Elton, tell me, why was he there?
I don't know. I still don't know.
You know, there's a very obvious conclusion you could be jumping to right now. Obviously, she's a massive David Tennant fan and her brain suffered from fatal levels of squee. Either that or he murdered her. I'm just saying, this should not breed fascination with the Doctor. This should breed vigilantism. While dressed up as a rodent. Anyway, Mr. Teatime's managed by accident to be a peripheral part in several big events in the New Who universe. He was there when the Autons started killing people back in Rose. He saw the spaceship crash in Aliens of London. Poor bastard. He saw part of Aliens of London. And he saw the spaceship from the Christmas Invasion. 2 points. 1, if you only know Doctor Who through my reviews, then the bits from Rose and the Christmas Invasion won't make that much sense. Sorry, but you really should watch Not Completely Shit Doctor Who. And 2, you might say this would have been a perfect way to connect the new show with the classic by having him witness stuff from old Who. And you'd be right. Even Russell T Davies thought it was a good idea. That's why he cut it all out in the last draft of the script. Again, I don't hate Russell. He's a talented as fuck writer. It just seems he has no idea what's a good idea and what's not. So whether you're going to get good ideas from him is basically a coin toss. With an unfairly weighted coin, so we mostly get bad. Using the vlogging was a fun idea though. Mostly. I just wish they'd taken care to make it look realistic. Ditch the pro lighting, make him repeat himself and stumble over his words. In short, do more than add those fucking lines to the shot. Or just maybe don't have him randomly dance like an idiot. That's a completely different type of common YouTube video. Mr. Teatime's investigations of the Doctor introduced him to Shirley Henderson, aka Moaning Myrtle. It's really nice to see her play someone of her own age. She was fine as Myrtle in Harry Potter, but she was also clearly 35. In the Harry Potterverse, do ghosts keep aging after death? Or was she held back a lot? Or did someone put an artificial aging spell on her? Or was she a journalist undercover, a la that movie I can't fucking remember the name of? And I don't want to be told the name of. Anyway, she's part of a group dedicated to investigating the Doctor. What's weird about this group is they mostly seem to be following the David Tennant version. Quite why you'd be interested in him, I really don't get. 1, he's not very recognisable, at least compared to all of the other ones except for 9. And 2, he apparently only had a lifespan of a few years. Something like 6 or 7. Because the 9th Doctor said he was 900 years old. And then the 11th Doctor said he was 907 during Flesh and Stone. So if you trust the ages given in the show, 10 was one of, if not the shortest lived incarnation. Of course I don't trust that, because the 6th Doctor was 900 years old, and 7 was 953 back in time in the Rani. But there was a time in the books when the 8th Doctor decided that he'd only count from the start of that incarnation, which at the time made him 3. And if 8 had a long life, then 9 could have been 900. Now the 7th Doctor regenerated into the 8th at the age of 1009 years old. So using this method we could claim that the 9th Doctor was 1909. 10 during the Voyage of the Damned was 1912, and 11 in Flesh and Stone was 1916. Which honestly sounds about right, so I'm glad I've solved that. But I do think that 7 should have lasted longer than 50 fucking years. But anyway, the 10th Doctor only lasted for a few years. Them all spotting him is frankly unlikely. This is another part that they could have used to echo the classic show. They just decided not to. I mean, they mention the existence of other doctors, they do. They know the others exist, but it's Tennant they're interested in. Anyway, the group meets up weekly to talk about the Doctor, and eventually they bond as a proper group of friends, and the Doctor becomes secondary. Now, this was supposed to be a loving tribute to the Doctor Who fandom, but like the whiz kid in Greatest Show in the Galaxy...
Although I never got to see the early days, I know it's not as good as it used to be, but I'm still terribly interested.
I can only marvel at how much the creative team seems to hate the fans. The whiz kid was the personification of the fans who thought the show had gone downhill. Well, these guys are genuinely sad people huddled together and celebrating each other's talentlessness. But it's okay, because they have each other. The term damning with faint praise doesn't really fit, but I can't think of anything better.
No, you'll go.
Oh no. Grooms!
You'll go.
Now careful, mind the cables.
And that's when it all changed. That Tuesday night in March. That's when he arrived.
Lights!
So, after another musical interlude and a dramatic blackout, it's time for us to meet the villain. I am, of course, talking about Peter Kay, a force far more evil than any mere ridiculous alien wearing an obvious human suit. He's playing Victor Kennedy. And guys, for people interested in investigating stuff, you managed to miss that he has verbal control over the lights. But that complaint needs to get in line because, how did he set the lights to vocal control? He doesn't own the building or anything. He just appeared out of nowhere. And why did he think they wouldn't wonder about any of that? Did he know they were as stupid as he thinks they are? So lights aren't the only thing he has bizarre vocal control over, because he immediately takes over the group and redoubles their efforts to find the Doctor. No more band practice. No more cakes. No more reading extracts from their upcoming novels. No more sculpture. And I'm pretty sure no more slash fiction. And I've just come to an awful realization. Victor Kennedy looks ridiculous in his wearing dated clothing. He's just swanned in and taken over an organisation. This was a warning. A look through a keyhole at a horrible alternate reality where Peter Kay played the Doctor. Suddenly the casting we got seems much, much better. Yes, even Eccleston's. He hands them out homework assignments to perform for next week's meeting. I don't know what they could be, other than look out for a fucking TARDIS, but I'm sure they'll make perfect sense. I mean, he's ominously asking one of the people he just gave a homework assignment to stay after the meeting. He's clearly a genius.
I'll meet back here this time next week, one step closer to catching the Doctor. Well, don't just sit there, move! Bliss? It is Bliss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Could I have a word with you in private, please?
Lots to do.
I never thought of it as work.
It's what we've always wanted, though, to find the Doctor.
Yeah, I suppose.
You hear something? Nah. See, this is how real, ruthless monsters work. They give out orders to their underlings that must be performed so they can reach their terrible goal. And then they kill said underlings before the orders can be followed. You know, this was stated to be a place that none of them own. And they're only allowed to meet in here because the landlord was friendly with them. Why are they allowed to redecorate? Besides, all but one of them live in London. Why don't they meet up in someone's house? Well, that'd be because it'd make it harder for Kennedy to obviously murder them one by one when he could be targeting people that he's not depending on to find the Doctor. And yeah, I'm revealing this now. Victor Kennedy is an alien, and he's using them to find the Doctor, and he's killing his own people. He's eating them, and he needs to eat, but rule number 1 of villainy: you kill your minions only if you have a fuckload of them, or if they've proved incapable of doing the job that you gave them. Anyway, someone spots the TARDIS, and this is where the episode began, with Mr. Tea Time in the TARDIS. And Mr. Kennedy is not pleased.
Useless!
What I want to know is why the hell they only sent Mr. Tea Time out to find it. It wasn't a small place he was checking out. And also...
Use that cane on him and you'll get one hell of a smack off me! And then a good kick.
Duly noted. Ursula Blake. Most likely to fight back.
There are few things that should immediately arouse more extreme suspicion than that. Especially after seeing him threaten your friend with a cane. The only way I can make sense of his relationship with them is through mind control. Mind control that doesn't stop you screaming as he eats you. They use a photo of Rose to track down her family, i.e. her mother. Oh, joy of joys. As I said back in the Eccleston reviews. I like Camille Cowdery. I just can't stand Jackie Tyler. And how do they plan to get information on Rose? Attempted seduction.
I tell you what, Elton. Here we are, complete strangers, and I'm flashing you my knickers.
I'm really not sure if this would be any better if it was the way round that you'd expect. So Mr. Kennedy tells everyone to come up with plans to get the information about the Doctor from Jackie. He then tells Bridget to stay behind for reasons that I've discussed earlier. It's a pity. Her plan would have included a bear trap and other things that might actually work. There is one part that I liked in this section of the episode. Bridget and Mr. Skinner's blossoming relationship. I hope you're happy, Mr. Kennedy. You didn't get her plan and I was forced to experience human emotion. All because you couldn't be bothered to fucking eat out. But to be fair, he didn't get anyone's plans because Jackie kept calling and attempting to seduce Mr. Teatime. Apparently, young Malcolm McDowell lookalikes are extremely sexy. This is news to me.
Oh, look at your shirt. Sorry.
I'm fine, it's all right.
Ruined it.
No, honestly, it's fine.
Take it off, I'll put it in the wash.
Oh, come on, it's only a little drop.
Oh.
Maybe I could see it if he had a guy's cock tied closed and then forced him to drink wine until he exploded. Anyway, Rose calls and Jackie's suddenly not in the mood. Most realistic thing all episode. Just being reminded that Rose Tyler exists can kill a libido for months. Just after Mr. Teatime realizes something about life being too short for weird obsessions with the Doctor, which again is a bit odd when you remember his group are supposed to be based on the Doctor Who fandom, so this is the whole vibe I'm getting.
Get a life, will you, people? I mean, for crying out loud, it's just a TV show.
Anyway, he figures out that he's in love with Shirley Henderson, because love and sex can't exist at the same time as an enthusiastic fandom. Ignore Tumblr and fanfiction.net and everything else telling you that this is silly. I should also probably mention that Jackie works out that he was looking for evidence about the Doctor and gets really pissed off with him. I could give you more information about the hows and whys about this, but honestly I'd rather talk about the important stuff. As in anything that's not Jackie Tyler.
Because it's all gone wrong, Mr. Kennedy, ever since you turned up. We used to come here every week and we'd have a laugh. We were friends. Because I am leaving. And so are you, Mr. Skinner. And as for you, Ursula, you're coming with me. And we're going to the Golden Locust and we're going to have a Chinese.
What's that got to do with it?
I mean, you and me, together. Having a meal. If you want.
Oh. I'd love it.
How the hell did she go from a dead magical teenager to a living 30-year-old nerd and not change her fucking voice? So having stormed out en masse, Mr. Skinner decides to stay behind to see if the obviously evil Mr. Kennedy, who Bridget and Bliss were last seen with before they vanished, can help him find them. And when I say them, I mean Bridget, because apparently no one gives a shit about Bliss.
Yeah, I like prawns.
Do you?
Crispy aromatic duck.
Oh, I left my phone.
You know, now would have been a good time for someone to remember that they can fucking hear and begin justifying their existence. Whatever. They return to find Mr. Skinner gone and Mr. Kennedy hiding behind a giant newspaper, which can't hide his green hands. Oh dear.
You've doubled with aliens. Now meet the genuine article.
Oh my God.
I never expected them to be quite so embarrassing looking. Mr. Kennedy is the Abzorbaloff, an alien from the planet Clom who absorbs people, things, other things, smaller things, and stuff. Bliss, Mr. Skinner, and Bridget are three of the many faces attached to his body. He'd planned to absorb the Doctor once they tracked him down, assuming they managed to track him down before he absorbed everyone in the group. But what I want to know, right now, is why he doesn't seem to have a name yet.
You're some sort of absorbathon. An absorberling.
An Abzorbaloff.
Yes, I like that.
He's not a one-off freak. He's a member of an alien race and decides on the spot to take Abzorbaloff as a name. He must have had a name. He called himself Victor Kennedy, so he must be familiar with the concept. I mean, it's possible that he just really liked the ring of the name and wanted to keep it. Maybe that's how the Master got his name, but at least the Master's name makes fucking sense. Oh, wait a second. Surely Henderson's being eaten by an embarrassing special effect.
Ursula!
Most likely to bite back indeed.
Leave her alone!
That should have been horrifying. That should have been like something out of The Thing. So back to the Abzorbaloff. Apart from being shit, the name doesn't make any sense. What is a loff? Why did Mr. Teatime randomly add it to the end of absorb and create a word that both he and the monster like for some reason? He could have called it the Absorbinator, or Absorbimus Prime. They would have been crap, but at least they would be referencing something. And yes, I know the monster was named by its creator, a small child who won a contest, but I wasn't nice to the kid in Fear Her, and I'm not going to be nice to the kid who invented the fucking Abzorbaloff. I suppose it was a step up from similar contests in the 1960s where the kids' designs were created, but never used in the show itself. Of course, it's a step down for absolutely everyone else in the fucking world that's not the small child in question.
Wait a minute. Now I've been absorbed. I can read his thoughts. Oh my god. Elton, you're next. Get out of here. Now you've seen him, he can't let you go. Just run!
Well, duh. Why the hell did she and her equally absorbed glasses need to tell you that? And is looking like that while chasing a man down the street, while screaming, the best way to keep a low profile? You don't want to be found out. What do? You let the human go, safe in the knowledge that no one will fucking believe him. Or on the other hand, you can do this. The small child did not write this scene. He gets no blame for this. That's squarely on Russell. But I am thankful for one small mercy. In the original design, the monster, because I'm not saying Abzorbaloff ever fucking again, in the original design, the monster was Godzilla-sized, and Russell decided that a city-destroying Peter Kay would be a step too far. No, Russell, that would be 85 steps too far. The episode as is 84 steps too far. The monster chases Mr. Teatime and is about to absorb him when the TARDIS arrives. And Rose starts to yell at Teatime for upsetting her mother. And you know what's funny? A much more simple way for the monster to meet one of the doctors would be to go to London and walk around all naked and green and shit. And kind of absorb people. Pretty soon, the doctor or someone who knows him is bound to turn up.
You upset my mum.
Great big absorbing creature from outer space and you're having a go at me.
No one upsets my mum.
You are a terrible, horrible human being, and I say that as someone who has watched people die and laughed. And how the fuck is it that the TARDIS can find where to go only when it's convenient for the fucking plot? I know it's been like that forever, but this episode just really annoys me. Anyway, the faces on the monster pull apart, even though they don't have any ability to move. But I suppose they also don't have any lungs and yet can still talk, so episode, you get a pass.
What did I do?
The cane created a limitation field. Now it's broken, he can't stop.
The absorber is being absorbed.
Okay, this is going to be long. How the fuck does that work? His species had to evolve on the planet Clom.
Clom, yes.
What did they do before they developed the ability to invent something that kept their absorption abilities in check? Did they spend billions of generations just trying to solder a fucking circuit board? One dying, and then replaced by the next generation, who was destined to die a moment later and be replaced by the next generation, a never-ending tragedy. How can something with a weakness that'll kill it in seconds evolve? This is like human beings spontaneously combusting in contact with oxygen unless we have a force field to protect us. We wouldn't be able to survive long enough to build the technology we would need to survive in the first place. So the monster has been absorbed by the Earth, and the Doctor, being an amoral prick, decides to damn Shirley Henderson to a half-life where she's trapped in concrete. I can suddenly see why exactly they cast her. She is pretty much playing Moaning Myrtle. Maybe she'll start wailing when Mr. Teatime dies of old age and her face is used in a bathroom wall. Now, most people who hate the ending of the episode do so because of the blowjob joke.
It's a relationship of sorts. We manage. We've even got a bit of a love life.
Oh, let's not go into that.
I am not one of them. Blowjobs have appeared in Doctor Who before. I believe they were first referenced in Damaged Goods, a novel written by Russell over a decade beforehand, so I don't care about that. What bothers me is the Doctor, without the consent of the person involved, turned Shirley Henderson into a sentient immortal paving slab. There are fates worse than death, and being stuck watching Mr. Tea Time dance to ELO is one of them.
It's horrible. Horrible. I can't watch this. This dancing.
And I cannot not watch it. May God have mercy on us all.
And this isn't the only time New Who has done this. In Forest of the Dead, all the characters who died were saved and left inside a computer program for, it's suggested, forever. Hell isn't just other people. Hell is the same small group of other people that you didn't get on with to begin with, forever. How would I have changed the ending? Simple. No Doctor. Rather than fall and surrender to the monster, Mr. Tea Time should fight back, work out that Cain is the monster's weakness and break it, losing the woman he loves in a tragic end, but also realizing that he doesn't need to meet the Doctor. In defeating an alien menace, he's just as good as the Doctor, and through some random absorbing crap getting on his hands, he can feel his friends with him for the rest of his life. He can move on, or not. It's his choice. Yeah, we wouldn't have had the Doctor appear, but they could have made it in such a way that the Doctor's essence permeates the whole show, that his shadow metaphorically looms over everything. Kick-Ass 2 did this with Big Daddy, who died in the first one. He's not in the film at all, but there's pictures of him. People talk about him. He influences people's decisions. He's in the film, but he's not in the film. And that's what they should have done with the Doctor here. And before anyone wonders why I chose Kick-Ass 2, I wanted my example to be something of a similar intelligence level as this episode. And if you needed to have the Doctor in this episode, you could have had an epilogue years later, when Elton meets up with the Doctor by chance and mentions that he saw him when his mother died years earlier. The Doctor realises that he's not done that yet and promises to make sure the kid version of him will be okay. Then the Doctor leaves and Mr. Tea Time doesn't even glance back at the TARDIS as it leaves, because he doesn't need to. I know this suggestion is very similar to the epilogue of Blink, but honestly, this episode came out before Blink, so if they'd done this, which is sane in the context of the episode, then Blink would have been the one ripping it off. Plus, I don't find the ending of Blink entirely necessary. I think it would have worked better here. Anyway, Mr. Tea Time can still like the Doctor. He can still be fascinated by the Doctor, just not be obsessed. But that's just my idea, and what the fuck do I know? I know that in flashbacks, Mr. Tea Time's mum looks a lot like Bridget. Weird. Overall, I liked some small, or rather, very small parts of the episode, but the rest is just fucking awful. This episode is 5% made up of its own AMVs. DRMVs. Like this.
Hey, you with the pretty face. Welcome to the human race. A celebration. Mr. Blue Sky's up there waiting. And today is the day we've waited for.
They just keep playing ELO over random clips from earlier in the story. This episode is colossally bad. Eccentrically bad. It's like a manic child jamming random crap together and it doesn't work. It's not Fear Her bad, or Doctor's Daughter's bad, or even End of Time bad, but it's close.
Okay, first things first. My name is Elton, not to be confused with...
My name's Diamanda, not to be mistaken for...